Yeah, you. The guy that says, oh, I can't even draw a stick figure. Yeah, this is for you. Hello world, my name is Keenan Diabrio and welcome back to my channel where we live and breathe art. So if that tickles your pickle, make sure you are subscribed. Also, if you're not following me on Instagram, be sure to come and follow me there so you can stay updated with all my latest art and coolest creations. So in today's video, I am going to walk you through this beautiful painting. This is a piece of Marylin Monroe. It is done in pop art style. If you've never painted before, don't even worry about it. It's super easy. Don't have drawing skills, don't even worry about it. I walk you through how to grid it and we sort of come up with something awesome. Here's what you're gonna need. So you're gonna need a canvas. I do recommend sticking with a square canvas because of the grids that we have. But if you don't have a square canvas, no problem. Any size will do as long as it's not super long. You can go as big as you want, super easy to follow. I always like to say bigger the better, especially getting that grid just right. You're gonna need a canvas, you're gonna need some paints, you're gonna need a few brushes. Also what you're gonna need is the template. So you're gonna need a laptop or a phone to sort of look at the template. You can either print it out or just use your screen. There is a link in the description below for the artwork that we're gonna follow with the grids marked out and everything. Okay, are we ready? God, you're not ready?
Why is no one ready?
Fine, I'll wait. Okay, so let's get creative. Okay, cool beans. So here's my setup. So all I'm gonna use is, I'm gonna take this canvas. So this is an old canvas, so I know you can see stuff below it, but don't worry. Ideally, I would use a square, and you should be using a square too. But if you don't have a square canvas, you could just use any canvas like this. So you can use the link in my bio to get the graphics so you're following along accurately. But what I'm gonna do, so if you have a square, divide it equally by 10 parts, and horizontal and vertical, and then number your grids. Follow through with me if you don't have a square canvas though. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to first measure out. So this canvas right now is about, I'm gonna say 25 centimeters by 20 centimeters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 25 centimeters and mark the about, just an estimate of like the midpoint. So I'm going to say it's about 12.5, and then I'm going to make 2 marks on it. So let's say I do that there, and let's say I do that here. So just 12.5, 12.5, and then I sort of mark the middle. So now I know where that is. Cool, so now I know where the middle point is. So now I know that this line here is going to be 20 centimeters. So what I'm going to do is just use this midpoint. So your 20 centimeters is not going to be 20 centimeters, it's going to be the length of the shorter side. So now, because I know it's 20 centimeters, which is there, I'm going to take my 10 centimeter mark and make it there. So I'm just going to make a mark at 1, and I mean at 0, and make a mark at 20. So now I'm also going to make lines there. So now my total workspace where I'm actually drawing my grid is 20 by 20 centimeters. So if I'm dividing that into 10 equal parts, what I'm gonna have is boxes that are 2 square centimeters each. So there's that. So you either have a square canvas or you don't. So if you have a square canvas, you're gonna divide it into 8 sections horizontally and 8 sections vertically as well. Feel free to use the linked file in this description to follow along with me. But if you don't have a square canvas, like I don't have a square canvas, this is all I have to work with, what I'm doing is I'm making a square right in the middle. So the way that I made a square was I just measured this. I used the midway point to just make a square out. So 20 divided by 8, and I get 2.5 centimeters each. So I'm gonna make marks at 2.5 centimeters and onwards. So let's just take my ruler. I'm gonna use that on the top there. Okay, cool. So now that you have all your boxes marked out, so this is again my work area. So what I'm gonna do is from the picture, the same way that the picture has it, I'm going to label the boxes, numbers and letters. So that should be good for now. So what I'm gonna do is go box by box. So let's start. So the corresponding numbers and boxes, I'm sure you can figure this one out. So A1 in the box, if you follow the reference image that I have linked in the description below, you will be able to see. A1 has nothing in it, so we're just gonna ignore it. Let's go to B1. So B1 has this like slight weird thing here that we're gonna do, done. C1, nothing. D, let's go. So D has this like massive piece which we can come back to, but let's focus on the one between D and E. So I see there's like this small gap thing here going down into E, but not just touching the bottom. It's almost like flat towards the bottom. Again, you don't have to be super exact because it is a pop art, so we don't have to worry too much. Now within the D box, I can see that the line goes to almost halfway from top to bottom. It's almost about here. So I'm just gonna extend this bit. Okay, cool. And that's the E box. So let's leave one E. Now 1, F, G, and H are all empty. So let's move to this section between D1 and D2. So there's this like piece here, and we move into this curve. So what we're gonna do is just try to focus on the lines here and just sort of be aware about where our lines are going. I know this does cross into C2, so I'm gonna bring it into C2 a bit, and we're just gonna curve up, come down, and curve. Now let's move to E2 because there's a little bit of work there to be done. So we can just go, there's a curve there, it goes down, there's a little bit of a curve there, and it matches there. And then this curve on top sort of goes into, again, doesn't have to be too exact. Do not kill yourself trying to figure this out. This is really large, so I'm just gonna erase this because I can see that there's also this section here, but this is much smaller. So I just have to take this off. So I'm gonna quickly erase this. There we go. And we can just go slightly smaller. So the way that I like to do it is, if I'm struggling, I like to divide a section further down, and then on the image I like to use that. Again, doesn't have to be exact, but I like to use it on the image. So I see that it goes to maybe about here and then about here. See, that's almost half the size of what I originally drew, and then you just sort of leave it there. Sometimes if it's too complicated, where like for example in this section right now there's this white space in between this black space, so what I like to do is just give it a quick shade so I understand. So let's just give that, let's make that go dark as well, just so we understand where to paint later, and then I know that this is dark as well. So like going into dark, so this goes into dark, that goes into dark, and then there's this white section which I'm going to leave. So after this, I know there's this like curve at the bottom which I'm going to leave there, and I move into this side. So between E and F, number 2, there's this like weird shape going on here. It almost touches but doesn't, and then it goes down a bit, comes up, goes down again, comes up, goes, okay, cool. So now let's move to A2 here, this box. So between A2 and B2 there's quite a lot going on. So let's go from here and just come down to this curve. It goes into this like weird almost pointing hand shape and keep going. Let's go back up, and then so that's that section right there. And then again, if there's whites and blacks, you can color them in just to give you a better understanding. There's nothing going on there apart from this, so I'm going to leave that there. And we have this weird section going on here from A2 moving into A3 slowly, which is there. Cool. So that's our hairline. We also have this like tiny dot, but because it's so tiny, I'm just going to color that in. Now between B2 and C2, we have this weird funky shape going on. So I'm just going to give that a cool color in. And we have these 2 dots, so I'm going to fill that in. And yeah, so here we go. So I'm just going to use this just to color it in, just so I have an understanding, especially when things overlap boxes. I really like this. There's this dot between, like just about here on the point, there's this dot, so I'm going to color that in too. And so you just sort of go like that, and you just keep going. It's super easy. If you mess up, don't worry about it, just start again. It's so easy to just keep going. So now I'm going to keep going in sections because I like working in sections because I always feel like it helps. So because this is the forehead, just make sure they're kind of aligned. Don't stress yourself out too much because you can always fix details later. So I'm going to go to, let's say, F2. So in F2, there's this section here that's going on. So there's a curve here. And I see that it almost, so it comes there. There's this white space going on here. Yep, okay, just gonna leave it at that, and then I'm gonna move towards F3, move downwards to F3. So I see it almost overlaps here, and then it goes, there's a section here that curves, and it goes into F4, and it comes back up to F3, it goes into that curve again, boop, and then there's this white section inside. Now, not to get confused again, but there's this white section inside, but when I'm painting, I want to remember this. So I'm just going to give this a quick shade, just so I know that this is what we have to black out later. Cool, amazing. Next, we're going into G3. So G3, which is this box here, has this sort of curve here, curve coming down like that, going into H4. So let's go into H4. I see this. So I see from the top corner, if you're using the reference image, which you should be, coming downwards and curve back up and just go up and down, up and down. There's this like curve because this is part of the hair. I love this picture so much. Okay, cool. So there we have a fun understanding of where we are. I'm just gonna shade that in for funsies. Okay, cool. So this is the end of the hair. So now let's move to F4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and the letter F. So we have this tip here, which is fine. It kind of looks pretty accurate. And then we have almost midway, but slightly towards the right, we have this like peak thing going on. So we're just gonna put that in. Moving downwards to F5, we have this curving. So this curve is super important because it's part of the face. So I always think that the face and the eyes are super important, but there we go. So there's that curve going on, and then we move downwards. So it's not midway. So on the box of F5, let us look at what's going on. Sorry, not F5, F6. Let's look at what's going on. So the box of F6 on the top, so if we make a halfway point and then a halfway point again, that's probably where it is. And then down here, it goes to around here. So you just sort of curve that out, match that up. There we go. And so you kind of get the vibe that we're going for. I'm just gonna check that this works. Cool, amazing. So again, follow with the digital copy that I've attached in the link in the description. We go here, this is F7, sorry, that's a 7. Cool, and we're gonna keep going. So after F9, we're gonna move into, F7, we're gonna move into E7. So E7, I see that there's a curve here, there's about a point here. So it's, again, it's not halfway, it's slightly lower than halfway, so it's about this point. But then there's also this like curve to the chin going on, so I'm just gonna curve that. Let's move to D7. Yeah, cool. D7 is cool. So we can do that. So I see it touches exactly this top corner, and there's a slight bump here, and there's another bump here, and then it joins back with the chin. So I'm gonna keep that there. Cool. Let's go. Now in E5, I noticed there's something really funky going on. So it's almost about halfway. So I just like to make a midway point both ways. And then I understand, from my understanding of where it is, I'm just gonna put it there. Again, if it's a small section, I really like to color it in, and we're gonna keep going. So here, let's go back here and go to F1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So F5. So there's this like curve going on, but then it goes straight into G5, and then it has this curve going on. Come down, and you have this section. Use the whites and blacks to make shapes. All we're doing in our head is understanding where the shapes are. Go down, come up, curve, curve. There's this weird shape going on there. Again, that's white and everything around it is black, so I'm just gonna shade it so I understand what's light and what's dark. Curve, and then we go up, and we come down, and we go all the way up, and we come down to the corner of the sheet, to the corner of the square almost. Again, the more accurate your squares are, the better and more accurate your results are gonna be, which is why it's very important to focus. Cool, that's done. Now let's move to F5. There's this F1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So within F5, right by the almost like chin ending where the chin meets the hair, there's this curve going on, and then it goes almost flat down but with a slight curve. So it goes almost down, and then right before it touches this line. So now all of this is black. So let's just shade that in. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Cool. So this part almost gets bigger as it goes on. Again, being very aware about what I'm doing. Just coloring that in. Cool. And then this F6. This is F6. I'm just going to double check that I'm good. Yep, so this is my black area, so I'm going to shade that in. And then F7, where we have this weird curve going on. Cool. And then we go into down here. Amazing. And just being aware of where your blacks are and where your whites are. We can fill it in later, but yeah, I think just for now, focusing on drawing the thing out quick is pretty much our main focus. Now into 8G, so which is this box right here, I'm gonna focus on this shape that's going on here. And I see it's a curvy wavy, and there's a little bit of a curve there too. Cool. So now going into this, I'm gonna curve that out. Goes there. Amazing. And here. So there's this curve going on in 7F. Let's just put that curve up. And it goes down to an almost V shape at an angle. Comes down flat again, just to touch this tip. There we go. That should do the trick. And then from this V shape, I see something funny happening. So I see this W shape going on. So there's like this weird squiggly W. I noticed there's a white section there. I noticed there's another white section going on here. Let's do that. And then I notice another white section here. So again, we're following through. But keep in mind, this white section crosses the line into the next one. So that was an error, and I'm gonna keep doing this. Do not expect to get this on your first try. Like, don't just wing it. Take your time with it to actually look at where stuff is. It's super easy to follow through. These are black bits, so I'm gonna color them. And as I was saying, it's super easy to follow through. So really take your time with it, because the better that you feel and the more confident you feel, the better your painting will be. I just feel like that. And then you keep going, just sort of color in, fill the bits that are filled in, and you can leave the white bits later. Again, you have the picture when you're painting for reference as well, so do not worry about that. Next, so I see in 7E, which is here, there's right under there's this like curve almost going on here, and then it goes into 8E, which goes down here. So this is part of her shoulder, so I'm gonna curve that in. Amazing. And then I have this here. What I'm gonna do now is notice where this curve, this arch, where does it come down? So it comes down to about this point. So I'm gonna go here, and then I'm gonna curve it in. Cool. If you want to smoothen things out, you can. It's cool. I don't know why I went for this low pixel look, but I just did. So cool. Next is 8B. So 8B is this box here, and I see there's a line going right about here. It's just getting thinner as it goes closer to the shoulder, and it only goes to about, so, and then it goes to about here, and then it curves back up. So I'm gonna take this off. So it goes back up. So now we're at 7B, that's what we're looking at. So I see there's a mark here. There's almost like a curve going into 6B and 7B. And then it just joins down. Let's just join that down. Cool, amazing. How are you guys doing on your drawing? Yeah. So within this area, what I like to do is just focus on one area and then move on to the next. So now I have this point, and in 6C, which is this box right here, I noticed that there's this like black curve going on, and then it's not a straight line exactly, it's almost like a weird double shape going on, so I'm just gonna do that. And then I move into this box here. Now we'll focus on the detail later. A lot of people have it either or. So either you focus on everything else and you move inwards, or you start at the eyes and you move outwards. When I'm doing something more realistic, I like to start at the eyes and go outwards. But okay, cool. If you're actually following through, I don't want to keep you waiting, so I'm just going to keep going. Let's move back here at this section. So we have this curve. I think this curve is a little perfect, so I'm going to change it. Cool. And let's just go. So 6B is what we're going to use now. And just go curvy, wavy, inside and out. And now 5B, which is here, let's take a look at what's happening. I realize it's going to the corner. There's a small curve there. There's another small curve here. And it's going to like this weird shape. So we're just going to keep that. Now in 4B, it goes up and comes back down. And then goes another curve, and then there's this weird shape going on here, and it curves up into this. Let's go to 3A. 3A is, there's a lot going on in 3A. It's probably one of our busiest boxes, but it's fine, we'll get through it together. So, and then it almost crosses this line a little bit, and goes into this, and then there's this like almost figure with a head. So we're just gonna leave that, and it goes down, back up, down, curve, straight line, curve. That's her forehead. We do 4, and now in 4B, which is this box right here, this one right here, we're gonna, there's this curve going on here, so we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna keep going. Cool. That's what we have. That's what I have. I wonder what you have. I can't see, but it's fine. There's this white section that's missing here, so we're just gonna fill that in. So let's go here. Put this here. Oh, little cute shape there. And boop. And there we have it. That's a really fun shape going on. I'm quite liking it. Just again, because sometimes this confuses me when I'm painting, so I'm just gonna mark this dark, just to have an understanding of what's dark and what's light. Cool. There's also this like white section bang in the middle, almost in the middle of like 5B. It's just this tiny section, so I'm gonna leave it. And I'm gonna, so what I do is I shade around it, so I realize that everything around it is black and then only the section is white. How's your drawing going? I honestly cannot wait to see what you guys come up with. Yeah, cool. That's all done. That's done. Cool. So now we're gonna, this top fine. I'm just gonna check everything before I move on. Cool. Let's come back to this eye and nose area later. Let's focus on this eyebrow and this eye that's going on. So from 4D, which is this box right here, I noticed that, again, with like eyes and stuff, I like to divide the boxes halfway. If you want, you can always make changes to the image that I sent over. So yeah, I'm just gonna sort of wing it just to see where we're going. Now with this, you're gonna wanna try to be as exact as possible, just because it really, so the eyes really are the main focus when you do look at a portrait, especially in pop art, when it's so obvious sometimes, because you really want those shapes to come through. So yeah, I'm just gonna leave that as my eye. I'm gonna fix a few shapes. So I see this like curve, because those are her lashes. So now, again, it might not make sense, but when it's painted, it's gonna make a lot of sense. So there, we curve that. We go into this weird curve here. Cool. Now for the eyebrow, this is so thin. So I'm gonna, again, look at my marks that I've made, these like smaller marks. They're very rough right now. You can sort of do it with a ruler. I'm trying to film this, so it's a little hard to go in again with a ruler. And it's just this very thin line going on. And it just almost sticks out just a little bit. Now we're gonna come down again. So E3 is where the eyebrow ends, but almost touching, which is about there. And it curves from here. So we're just gonna go in like that, give her a nice lifted, raised up eyebrow. Super easy. There we go. How easy is that? I'm sure you guys are just fine. Feel free to pause this at any time, and yeah. Cool, so that's what I have right now. I'm digging when it looks like the way that it looks like now. Cool. So now what we're gonna do is just, all that we have left is the lips and this other eye that's going on here. And so from this curve that we have, we're gonna extend it and move. I don't even know where the camera stopped recording, but again, we've just sort of filled it as we've gone. Again, I've noticed that there's a problem with this eye, which I'll fix later, this one here. But for now, let's just keep doing the lips as we go. So again, that white section is just gonna be as it is, and we have this weird section going up, and we come down with some nice space in between the teeth. And we go there. So those are my teeth. But make sure, now here within this, it's super important to make your teeth curly, because that's what shows the definition of actual teeth. Amazing. And then there's this white section going on there. So that is my base drawing. Now I do realize that this eye is way too thick. It's way too thick. So I'm just gonna cut it down a little bit. There we go. And the shape is really off as well, so I'm just gonna keep changing it till I get it, I wanna say right, but till I get it to like something that's not crazy. Because it's pop art, the thing that I love the most is that it almost, the viewer does a lot of the work themselves just by looking at it. So there we go. And we just color that in. Cool. How is that? I think that's freaking phenomenal. I'm just gonna color in what I find essential. Amazing! So I hope you have this. So if you don't have this, pause the video, follow the link in the description to get the graphic. But this is what I have for now. This is my drawing. Next step is painting. That's what I'm gonna move on to. So a lot of times with things like this, what I like to use is this Japanese drawing ink that I got from Daiso in Dubai. I have seen them in art stores here. I just find that it's super easy, it dries really quick, it's hassle-free. So you could use black paint if you like, you could use Japanese drawing ink like me if you like. But yeah, that's what it looks like. So I'm just using this. And this is super easy, it doesn't have to be perfect, but again, the more exact you are, the better. So, yep, you just paint it through. So again, for sections like that, that's where coloring in the background comes in helpful. Because if that confuses you, you can color in the background. While you're drawing, you can sort of just color around the white section so you understand where your lights are and where your darks are. So while doing this, make sure your paint is not too thin, just to avoid doing a second coat. Make it nice and thick. Obviously water it down if you are using acrylics. You can be using anything here, but I would use something that's recommended for canvas, so I wouldn't use watercolor. But pretty much anything else is fine. But just make sure that you're using a thick enough layer so you don't have to go in again. Also, I feel like it's super important to say at this stage, if you do mess up, you can always fill it in later with white paint over, because we are going to fill the white sections with white paint, so you can always do that later. But for now, just focus on establishing where the dark areas are or where your black areas are. Okay, cool. So that's what we have. Now, once you're set, once you have this ready, what I really like to do is because it's a pop art and I really want it to pop, I like to give it almost an outline and then go in with a funky color. You can use any color you like. I like to use one of the 3-pound primary colors. I would recommend, because it's Marylin and she's so well known for like her red lipstick, what I like to use is red. So what I'm going to do before starting is just make a fun outline. So you're just going to outline the entire shape, just the way that you think it goes. So let's go. So I'm going to just start with this side. So it doesn't matter what size it is, to be honest, because it's pretty pop arty by itself. I'm just going to make a fun, but just make sure that you're getting all the curves in, because I think that's what's really fun. And it's about, the thing that I'm doing is I'm making it about a centimeter away from what it is, from like the black bits, and just trying to focus it on the black bits. Again, doesn't need to be perfect. This is just for an added pop arty effect. And then we go down in and we curve down. So now we have a separate outline sticking out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze out some red paint and go in around. So that is going to require more than one coat though, just a heads up, because we have all these lines that we've used to grid. So that's totally fine. Cool. So I've just squeezed some of my red acrylic paint out and I'm ready to go. So I just realized that you literally could not see anything. I don't know why I showed you that. Yeah, so for this time, I'm just going to use a brush that's like this. So it's a little bit flat, but still sort of manageable. Use some water as required and be prepared to do a few coats, not gonna lie. And we're just going in. Okay, cool. So now that that's all dry, The first coat of the red has dried. What I've done is I've taken an eraser while I was waiting for it to dry, and I kind of took off some of the white lines inside, in the middle, in the whites as well. And we're just gonna go in and second coat pretty much the same way we did before. Just gonna go over it and keep going. I find that the thicker the paint is, the more opaque it is. Cool, so now that I've done a second coat, again, I'm just gonna wait for it to dry. But while it's drying, what I can do is start going into the whites. So because, again, you can see the way that the camera lighting is, but there are a lot of strong lines going on here, and I can still kind of see the grit. So I'm gonna go in with white paint and just try to cover up as much as I possibly can. Also be aware that if you've overcast some of your black bits, now is the time that you can fix it. So now is the time. Or even if you sort of overcast some of your red bits and you want to fix those lines, like here there was a little bit of a mistake, so I can just go in with some white paint and it literally fixes it right up. There we are, that's better. So I've been using this brush, which is slightly thick. It's a little too thick to go into the details with. I've just been using it for things like the forehead and for the cheek. So what I'm going to do next is sort of smooth to a smaller brush so I can get into the detailed areas a little. Cool, so now that the big parts of the white bits are filled in, we're going to move slowly towards the smaller bits with a smaller brush. So let's grab our smaller brush and go crazy with it. So again, with your white brush now, this is where you have the opportunity to fix any mistakes that you might have made. So in some areas, I do realize that my red is going a little too into the line, and I want to give it more of a distance or more of a space. So I'm just going to keep doing that just to sort of extend that line out just a bit. There's also this area somewhere here where I did realize that I missed a white spot. So right here I can always add another white spot with just this dot like that. There we go. So now it's put back in. Okay, and that's me done. So I'm just gonna wait for that to dry out. If you do notice that you've made mistakes with your white, feel free to go back in with your blacks again and it'll really help. But yeah, that's my final result. So that was my Marylin Monroe pop art tutorial. What do we think of our finished product? I really do want to see your piece. If you follow this tutorial, be sure to send me a message on Instagram. I would really like to see what you came up with. What did we think of gridding? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time.